Hello my friends, today we are going to continue studying grammar, chapter 7, the present perfect and the past perfect. These are actually two topics, but maybe one topic under one headline, which is very important. So pay attention. There will be a lot of questions in your final test, in your final examination, including verbs in present perfect or the past perfect. So you should have a very good command of both tenses to be able to pass your test. Let's look at the past participle. What is past participle? Or the third form of a verb. We have regular verbs and irregular verbs. With regular verbs, it is more or less clear. We have a verb like finish and simple past. The simple past form is finished and the past participle is finished too. We build the three forms of a verb by adding ed at the end of the verb. With irregular verbs, you should be able to be very comfortable with all the verbs which are on page 22 of this book. If you are unsure in some cases, go back and check yourself against that table. These are some instances, some examples of irregular verbs, like see, saw, seen, make, made, put, put. Alright, let's go on. So in this exercise, which you will do in written form, write it, complete it in written form or in writing, and here you will be able to practice the third forms of the verb. Let's go on. Forms of the present perfect. Okay, what is present perfect? We have already talked about it. Remember? The present perfect, we spoke about the present perfect and how it is used in our red book in the first semester. But here we will touch upon the present perfect again and study it again. Let's remember that with present perfect we don't use definitions of time. Vaxt tayin edicisi yoktur. The present perfect expresses an action as a result. It doesn't show us when the action took place. It tells us that action has actually been done. So if you say, I've finished my work, you want to tell me the result, that I've finished my work and I'm ready to do something else, or I'm ready and now I'm free. Or the students have finished chapter 5. That's the result. That's what I need to know. That's what you want to put across, that you have finished chapter 1 and you have already done all the exercises and you're familiar with the chapter 1 material. Or Jim has eaten lunch. Jim isn't hungry because he has eaten lunch. Now, I have, you have, we have, they have, in the contracted forms, eaten lunch. She's eaten lunch. It's been cold for the last 3 days. Look at the for here. For expresses duration, muddat, a duration. So for normally shows us that there is the present perfect. How do we form negatives? We form negatives with present perfect by adding not after have or has. I have not finished my work. Anne has not eaten lunch or hasn't eaten lunch. And the questions? Have you finished your work? Has Jim eaten lunch? How long have you lived here? You see, how long have you lived here? You remember we discussed the difference between simple past and present perfect. Do you remember that? When you say, if you ask a question, how long did you live here? What do you mean? You mean that you know that this person does not live here any longer. So, if you ask how long have you lived here, this means that you know that the person is still living here. So you are asking about the beginning of his action. When did he start living here, and for how long has he been living here? In our language, it is sen neçə müddət burada yaşayırsan? But when you ask how long did you live here, you ask sen burada neçə müddət yaşadın? Artıq yaşamırsan. When you say, have you seen the movie? You are interested in the result. You're not interested in when you saw that movie. But you ask, have you seen that movie? Yes, I have, or no, I haven't. So I want to invite you to a movie. Have you seen that movie? Oh, yes, I have, so I don't want to go to the movie to watch that movie again. Has Jim eaten lunch? We normally ask about children. We ask each other, uşaqlar yeyiblər, yemək yeyiblər? That is what we are interested in the fact. Have they eaten or not? Has Jim eaten lunch? Artıq. And we always keep in mind the word already. So what is there? Meanings of the present perfect. Okay, once again. A. Jim has already eaten lunch and hasn't eaten lunch yet. Have you ever eaten in that restaurant? I've never eaten there. So the present perfect expresses activities or situations that occurred, that happened or did not happen before now at some unspecified time in the past. Unspecified because it is not important when they happened. They just happened at some time in the past and we are interested in the fact. Pete has eaten at that restaurant many times. Many times is not a definition of time. Vaxt təyin edicisi deyil. Because many times does not answer the question when. Many times dəfələrlə. I've been to that theater 5 or 6 times. Mən bu teatrda 5-6 dəfə olmuşam. Amma demir nə zaman. I've had 3 tests so far this week. You see, the week isn't over yet. So, I may still have tests this week again. So the week isn't closed and the period isn't closed. So the period is not the past period. That is why we call this tense present perfect. So beginning this week, from the beginning of this week, I've already had 3 tests, and that's a fact. That's what I want to tell you, that I've already had 3 tests so far. so far also shows us present perfect. Erica has lived in the city since 1989. I've known Ben for 10 years. The words since and 10 always indicate that there is present perfect. Both of these words show us the beginning of the action, but not the end of it. The action is still going on. It still continues. Like we've been in class since 10th this morning, and such sentences we translate into our language in the present tense. We say biz saat 10'dan sinifteyik. Veyahut da Erika bu şehirde 1989 ildən yaşayır. Veyahut da mən Beni 10 il tanıyıram. If the exact time is specified, then you use past tense, simple past. Alright, you will do exercise 2. If you have questions, check yourselves against the table. Consult the table. Exercise 3. Let's see what we have here. Bob has been in Chicago since last Tuesday. Just translate these sentences into Azeri. Write the Azeri translations after each sentence. Exercise 4. You do exercise 4. Now we've come to 7-4, and here is the main difficulty. We are always at a loss. We always have difficulty whether we should use the simple past or the present perfect. Now let's look at the examples. I finished my work 2 hours ago. 2 hours ago, this expression answers the question when. So it is a definition of time. So when you use a phrase of time, you define when the action took place, then you use past simple only, because you put this action in the past. The action started and finished. It already finished 2 hours ago. But the present perfect is I've already finished my work, and I don't say when I finished my work. I just concentrate on the result, on the fact. That's what I want to put across, to relay, to express, that I've already finished my work. It doesn't matter when I have finished it. Or I was in Europe last year, or 3 years ago, or in 1989, or in 1985, when I was 10 years old. All these expressions are the answers to the question when. So we use simple past here. But I've been in Europe many times. Many times is not when. Several times is not when. A couple of times, once, or no mention of time at all. Like I've been in Europe. In British English it would be I've been to Europe. It's the same thing. Okay. Exercise 5. Do exercise 5 and 6. Now, look at exercise 7. Look at these expressions. Many times, several times, a couple of times, once in my lifetime, never, These expressions don't answer the question when. Many times, çoxlu dəfələrlə, several times, bir neçə dəfə, a couple of times, bir iki dəfə, dəfə deməkdir. Yəni vaxt demək deyil. Once in my life, ömründə bir dəfə, never, heç zaman, heç vaxt. And write sentences like have you ever been in Florida? Have you ever been in Europe? I've been in Europe once or twice. I've never been in Africa. I've been in the Middle East once. I've never been in Asia. Do it orally. Exercise 8. Yes, continue practicing irregular verbs. Write them down. Exercise 9. Ask a question. Have you ever ridden a horse? And give an answer. Yes, I have. I've ridden a horse a couple of times. Please write down the answers. You put oral questions like have you ever taken a course in chemistry? And under this, in the blank space, under the English sentence, you can write your answer in English. I have never taken, or I have once taken, I have taken a course in chemistry once when I was at school. Alright, exercise 10, continue with the irregular verbs. Do this orally. Here you will practice past participles of the verbs. Fly in a private plane. Have you ever flown in a private plane? Have you ever broken your arm? Have you ever drawn a picture of a mountain? Have you ever swum in the ocean? Etc. Continue practicing irregular verbs and consult page 22 of the book. Here, exercise 13, the same thing. Have you ever lost the key to your house? Yes, I've lost the key to my house many times. Have you ever met Hassan? Yes, I've met him many times. Continue doing because this is very important. Now let's go and see what we have here. Now 7-5 using since and for. Since and for always indicate that we are using present perfect. Since, what is since? Done. For, nice müddet. So since 8 o'clock, since Tuesday, since May, since 1989. Some of you pronounce it like science, which is not correct. It's a mistake. The word is pronounced since. You cannot say I'm living here since May. You cannot say I live here since May. You cannot say I'm here since May. Do you see the difference between the present perfect and the present continuous? Present continuous is a time, a tense, which expresses your status, your condition at some point in the present. But the present perfect tells you that you started at some point and you are still doing it. You cannot substitute present perfect with present simple, because in present simple the verb describes your general state or your general activities. So you cannot say I lived here since May, because you lived, when you use the verb in a simple past form, you mean that you don't do this anymore. You did it, but then you stopped doing this. And since means that you are still doing this. But the correct form is I have lived here since May. I have been here since May. I would say this here, B, C, D, E. You see, I don't see if you can see I don't know if you can see my mouse. So I think this is the most important part of this topic, of this grammar topic. Here you can see the difference between tenses and comprehend and understand why and when you are using different tenses. When you use present simple, when you use past simple, when you use present continuous or progressive, and when you use present perfect. Okay, since is I have lived here since I was a child. Ali has met many people who came here. I've been here for, just a second. A short break. So, for, like since, indicate the duration. Let's stop here and I will continue in the next part.